Hi guys, welcome to the Floating Fiber Knitting Podcast episode number 1. My name is Serene and this is my little practice zone where I do all my knitting and crocheting. Ever since the summer holidays arrived, I've been getting a lot more free time on my hand and I've been able to finish many of my long-term lingering whips. And as I'm finishing them up, I thought this would be the best time to start this podcast. Because I was in the situation of if it's not now, it's probably never going to happen. And I think I really need to do this just because I don't know anybody in my day-to-day life that actually knits. And when I have a hobby that I pour my heart and soul and money into, it's natural to feel the need to talk to somebody about it. Yeah, so here I am giving it a shot. If you're watching, I hope you grab your knitting or crochet project and just sit back and relax and enjoy this time with me here. So the first finished object that I want to show you today is also what I'm wearing here. So let me get closer to the camera. Okay, so this is she. This is the square neck camisole by the designer Helene Beba, and I've knitted the size XL. And let me stand up and show you the whole thing. Okay, this is it. It's very cute. So on the body, it features these 3x3 ribbing, and my favorite feature for this camisole is these double knitted neckband and armhole edges. I just think it gives the camisole a very professional and clean looking. And on the side, it features these decreases that just merge into a single rib. And it also serves as a waist shaping. So it helps the fabric cinches in around the waist. And I think it helps the camisole to fit a more hourglass shaped body type. But of course, if you don't like the look, you can simply omit the decreases on the side. And I think this would also be a good unisex pattern as well. Yeah, so in terms of functionality, this has been one of my favorite summer knits that I've ever completed. Just because the design is so clean and it's so versatile. I've been reaching for it a lot and I feel pretty comfortable wearing this to either Zoom classes or just out and about doing errands and stuff. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the construction of this camisole. So this is knitted top down. So you start with the two straps and then you just knit down to the neckline. And the designer asks you to cast on stitches to basically form this square neck, and then you connect this strap with this strap through this neckline. And then you just work flat until the underarm here, and then you put the first piece on hold. Do the exact same thing for the back piece. Oh, you can't see. So the back and front is the exact same. And you just connect in the round at the underarm and work 3x3 ribbing round and round until you hit the desired length. Construction is pretty easy, but the hard part is obviously the double knitted bands. So I would say this would be a 3 out of 5 difficulty. So I don't think it's necessarily a beginner-friendly pattern, but if you're adventurous, you can definitely try. If you've never worked double knitted bands before, basically you just work knit one, slip one for both the right side and the wrong side, and you just work in flat. But it sounds pretty easy on paper, but when you actually do it, since you're also connecting it to the main part as you go, and this is worked on a pretty small gauge, and the designer calls for a 3.0mm needle. And you are using a summer yarn that doesn't necessarily stretch as wool does. So it can be a little bit finicky or a lot finicky. And also this is a big amount of double knitting that you have to do, because you have to do it for the whole neck opening as well as the two armhole edges. Yeah, so that part probably raised the difficult level of this camisole for me. And one more thing, when you finish knitting the bands, you have to graft them together, the beginning of the end of the band, with Kitchener stitch. And it's only a few stitches, so it shouldn't be that hard, but if you want to get a very clean look that matches the design aesthetic of this camisole, you might have to do a few extra tries to just, get the perfect effect. Normally, if you wear this camisole the right way, this grafting should be on the back, so you won't be able to see it. But I'm too lazy to put a tag on my camisole after I finished it. So whenever I grab it, I just put it on either side. And sometimes this grafting bit just ends up at the front. But it doesn't bother me, so yeah. So last year, I was determined to knit summer knits with silk yarn, just because I tried cotton and that didn't work out very well for me. I decided to go for this 100% mulberry silk yarn that I found in an Etsy shop called YarnItaly, and I will link the Etsy shop down below just in case if you're interested. So this is the yarn base. It is, as I said, 100% mulberry silk, and it is a very, very luxurious and shiny, smooth silk yarn. So in terms of touch, when you touch it, is very cooling on your hands. It's very smooth, and when you work it up, it's very drapey, and the fabric is very breathable and also very light as well. For the colorway, it's actually hand dyed by me. Let me get closer. I am very happy with this hand dye. So I threw basically the whole rainbow onto this yarn. I've added pinks and purples, turquoise, blues, greens, and yellows, and some red as well. Yeah, so many colors. But I was able to practice restraint and just add a very low saturation of each color. So when it's knitted up, it gives the effect of it still being a white camisole when you look at it like far away. And when you get close, you can actually see the different fun colors. And I think that was actually what I was going for, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I've been looking at a lot of buttons, and there are these very beautiful white mother of pearl buttons, and I was inspired by that. And I also thought, this silk is so shiny that it actually emanates the shiny effect of the shells. So these colors are supposed to hint at the iridescent shine. But when the yarn came out, I actually think it reminds me more of cotton candy rather than mother of pearl. And in terms of modifications, probably more of a mistake on my part rather than actual modification. So what I did, the designer called for a 3.0mm needle, and I swatched with 3.0mm and I actually got gauge. But at the time, I just finished another summer piece with 3.0mm needles, and that one was with cotton yarn, and my tension was so off. I had many rolling outs and unevenness throughout the piece, and I was really afraid that if I used 3.0mm, it would create the same kind of problem. And I always had the impression of myself being a very loose knitter somehow. So yeah, I went down to a 2.5 millimeter despite that I actually got gauge with 3.0 millimeter. So I was working a size L from here to the underarm, and I did both pieces front and back. And I connected it in the underarm, and I put the camisole on my barber purse to try it on. And it was too tight around my chest, because obviously I wasn't engaged. And it was only like when I tried it on that I suddenly had the epiphany that I was not engaged, obviously. I don't know what I was thinking, but I do make a lot of rookie mistakes in my knitting. Yeah, so I wasn't going to unravel the whole thing. So what I did, I casted on more stitches on both the underarms to hit a XL stitch count, and I put it on again, and that fitted me okay. So yeah, so basically from here to here it's L, and from the underarm is XL. The last thing about this camisole, I want to talk about the size range of this pattern. So last year when I first began summer knitting, many of the patterns that just came out weren't necessarily size inclusive, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that I knitted quite a few pieces, including some of the pieces that I'm going to show you that are not like size inclusive. And from now on, I want to try to support more size inclusive designers. Yeah. Oh, by the way, my notes are at this direction, so I'm looking here just because my notes are here. Okay, so this camisole comes in 6 sizes, from 80 to 85 centimeter bust to 110 to 120 centimeters bust. Yeah, so as I said, it's not like good in terms of size inclusivity. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in working this up. Okay, so now let's move on to the second finished object. So for the second finished object, I have this pretty popular pattern. This is the camisole number 4 by my favorite things Knitwear. Let me get it close. So it's this very simple, very classic design featuring these 2 spaghetti straps made out of a 4-stitch I-cord and a V-neck. And for the body, she uses this broken rib stitch growing out of a single rib down the middle. So I think it's a very elegant and clean design. And on the back, it features these 2 slightly smaller triangles that are just connected in the middle by a straight line. And I really like this back design just because I think it's a little bit more interesting than just a straight line on the back. And also I think it's more thoughtful than just the front and the back being the exact same. So for equal sized triangles. And I think when you actually wear the piece and people see you, they can really tell that the designer has put more thought into her design. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. I also think these 2 smaller triangles kind of highlights your spine of your scapulas. So I learned a lot about anatomy even for my degree, and whenever like I see a picture and there are like very distinct like bony landmarks, that really stands out to me. Just because I'm like trained to see that. Yeah, so these 2 little triangles, they sit right beneath my scapulas, and I just feel like they are little arrows pointing to the spine of the scapula. Yeah, I think that's a neat design that makes the camisole a little bit more sexy when you're wearing it. Okay, so let's talk about the construction for this camisole. So this is a very simple construction. It is also worked top down. So you cast on for the the 4 triangles first, and then you just connect them in a round at the underarm, and then you just work round and round in broken rib stitch and to the desired length, and that's it. And then you come back and then pick up for the 4 stitches to do the I-cord spaghetti straps. So it is a pretty simple and straightforward design. In terms of difficulty level, this is not very difficult. it is basically what I just described. But you do have to work the 2 triangles, the 4 triangles, back and forth, and also in the stitch pattern that the broken ribs are growing out from a single rib down the middle, so it can be just a little bit confusing if you're not very experienced with knitting, but I think it's okay. The pattern is very clear. Yeah. Okay, so that's the construction. Let's talk about the functionality of this camisole. So I think this camisole being a very popular pattern, there are kind of many disputes around how functional this actually is. The first point being that it is a very low v-neck, and the second point is that these spaghetti straps can stretch out just because they are working in I-cord. And the third point is that these straps are not bra strap friendly. And I think these are all very valid points, and I do like wearing this, I can see why people would feel like this is not very functional. And yes, this one I would say is not as functional as the one I'm wearing here, the square neck camisole. The gauge that the designer asks you to knit, the fabric is a little bit see-through. That's a weird experiment. Can you see me behind the fabric? Probably not, but yeah, if you can see, these holes are pretty big, and I don't feel 100% comfortable just wearing this on its own. So I would choose to wear a bandeau top or a strapless bra underneath this. And the second point being that the straps tend to stretch out a lot. I already know the fact that spaghetti I-cord straps tend to stretch out, and my solution to dealing with that or prevent that is after finish knitting the strap, I blocked the thing and I stretched it to the maximum. So put it very taut. That's a Schitt's Creek reference. Pull it taut. I put it very taut, and then I measured the length, and then I connected it to the back. So that way there are absolutely no more room for the yarn to stretch, just because I've already stretched it to the max. And yeah, and I've been wearing this for around 4 to 5 weeks already, and on a constant, maybe like 2 times a week, that kind of frequency, and these have not stretched for me. Yeah, and I think that also have to do with the kind of yarn that you use. So I used the 100% mulberry silk yarn, so it is the same yarn, and that yarn doesn't stretch at all. So if you plan to knit this top with wool, especially a superwash wool, just beware of the fact that it would stretch out. Yeah, so that's that. Let's talk about the yarn. So as I said, it's the same yarn as this one, so the 100% mulberry silk comb that I just showed you. And this is also a Colorway hand dyed by me. And let me get closer. Yeah. So I used a gray base, and for the variegation that you see here, I used very soft violet mixed with lilac, and pinks, turquoise, and a lot of yellows. So that's my color palette. So the inspiration behind this colorway is actually after making this one, and this yarn being this one reminding me more of cotton candy rather than mother of pearl, I decided to give the mother of pearl idea another try. And the inspiration photo I used for this is actually an antique mother of pearl fan. I'll put a picture of it here. I saw that fan on social media and I was super enamored by it. I was just instantly drawn to the iridescent shine of that fan, and I was determined to get the colorway down with this yarn. I think I captured the essence of that iridescent shine of that mother of pearl, and this gray base actually do hint at the shell's texture a lot more than this white base. Okay, oh, so for modification, I cropped the piece a little so it hit my, where my high-rise jeans and pants lies here. Yeah, that's all the modifications I did for this one. And last thing about this top is the sizing range for it. So unfortunately, this is also not size inclusive. So this comes in only 6 sizes, and the smallest bust circumference is 33 centimeters, and it goes up to 115 centimeters. So yeah, as I've said, I apologize if I'm showing stuff that's not necessarily accessible to everybody. And my favorite things, Knitwear has said that she's going to increase her size range in her future patterns, and I can't say for sure, but I think she actually did for a couple of new designs that she came out with this year. She has expanded her size range. Yeah, so let's move on to my third finished object. This is the Cumulus top by Petiteknit, and I am knitting the size, I've knitted the size M. I'm proud to say this one, I actually casted this one on this year and I finished it within 2 weeks. But the other two, I actually casted both of them last year, and both of them took me like about a year to finish. It's just this very simple, very classic, I think the most OG camisole pattern out there. So it features these 4 exactly same triangles. So the front and the back, you can't tell, is the same. And then the detail of this piece are these I-cord edges that go all around the V-neck, as well as at the armholes here. And on the bottom hem, she asks you to do a double folded bottom hem. So although it is quite a simple, classic, simplistic design, the details just elevates the top a little bit and it makes it very professional and clean looking. So that's what I like a lot about this design. In terms of functionality, this is very functional, despite it being very cropped. That's on me, it's not in the design. So this fabric looks a little bit more see-through than the camisole number 4. But it's actually, when I wear it, I feel like it's less see-through than the camisole number 4, just because it's worked in stockinette stitch. Yeah, and the stitches doesn't have like huge holes in the middle as compared to the camisole number 4. The broken rib stitch, there tend to be some big holes. Yeah, but still, when I wear it, it still can be just a little bit see-through, and I won't feel comfortable just wearing it on its own as well. So I would choose to wear something underneath. But apart from that, it is pretty similar. So the yarn. Let me tell you the story about why this top is so cropped. I dyed up this yarn last year together with the two variegated colorways, and when I dyed it up, I was going for a solid color. But as you can see, there are some obvious pullings on this one, and I kind of just failed in my attempt to do the solid color. And this year I took it out, thinking that I could use it for something else, maybe just something with stockinette stitch, so the variegation would hold up much better. And I didn't decide upon a pattern to use yet, and I put my yarn on my couch. And I left the room for like just 1 second, and when I came back, croissant has got to 2 out of the 3 skeins. And I was so sad because I went through so much trouble dyeing it. I wasn't able to salvage the yarn. Only 1 skein that she didn't really get to. So I just chose the Cumulus top, basically because of how simple the construction is. So it looked very soothing to my broken heart. And also I chose a pattern that's top down intentionally because I don't have much yarn to play the yarn chicken with bottom up yarns, bottom up constructions. Yeah, so that's the story behind this top. And however, despite all the troubles I went through with it, I am pretty satisfied with the effect it made in the end. So this pulling kind of looks like water ripples to me. I'm not sure if you think so, but from like far away, I think the pulling kind of look like waves or ripples of a water surface. And together with this color and this vibe of a summer top, I think it is pretty suitable. Let me see. Okay, so last thing, oh, I didn't do any modifications with this one. And the last thing is the size range. So this top comes in 7 sizes, and it goes from an 80 to 85 centimeter bust to a 120 and 130 centimeter bust. So it is not the most size inclusive pattern, but it is a little bit better than this one and the Camisole number 4. I think Petiteknit also said she's going to go back to some of her more popular patterns and add sizes. And I think she's being more size inclusive this year. Yeah, so that's that. Let's move on to my next finished object. And technically this may be better suited for the acquisitions section, but since we're talking about finished object, I'm just going to show them because I finished them and they're my finished object. And these are the hand dyed yarns that I did, and I specifically dyed this up for the very knit along by the very popular Japanese sock designer Yuka, and this is her first mystery knit along, and it's supposed to start today as I am filming this episode, so the 14th of July. Yeah, the theme of the knit along is berries, and these are 2 of my favorite berries. So this is the white strawberry, and I'll put my inspirations photos here, and this is blueberry, of course. Let me get close. I am very happy. Focus. I am very happy with the colorways that I was able to come up with. So this white strawberry features some very lightly tonal pink base with these very evenly speckled pink speckles and just some very light hints of green speckles that kind of stands in for the green leaves and stem of the white strawberry. I went through, I think, 4 or 5 iterations of this colorway before I was able to come up with this one that I'm very, very happy and satisfied with, because Yuka suggested a lightly tonal yarn and just a little bit of speckle is fine. So some of the tests I did was a bit too heavily speckled, and I don't think it would stand up, like hold up to the beautiful stitch pattern that she's probably gonna, you know, publish. Yeah, so very, very happy with this one. And I also did, this is actually a variegated color. So this contains blues and purples. So, and then I didn't make it too solid just because, you know, for blueberries, there are these white powders on the surface of the berry, and I thought not making it too solid and leaving some lighter bits would, when I knit it up, it would kind of imitate that blueberry effect. Yeah, I'm super, super happy with these two colorways. But now I have the problem of, like, I can't choose between the two. I'm not sure, can I have one sock in one color and another sock in like another color? Is that going to look weird? I could also potentially do one sock, I mean like the body of the sock with the strawberry and the contrasting heels and toes with the blueberry. But I don't want the color blocking to reduce from the stitch pattern, so I'll have to see. I think I'm going to start with this color and see how the pattern works out. Oh, this is just fingering weight 75% merino and 25% nylon yarn, so perfect sock yarn. So that concludes my very long finished object section. I have so many finished objects just because it's my first episode ever, and I hope I would resolve this issue next time in episode number 2. Yeah, so let's quickly move on to my works in progress section. My first work in progress is this aura top. This is it. It's not a tank. So I already finished one sleeve, and this is the sleeve, and it's supposed to go here. Yeah, so it's a normal sweater, it's not a tank. So this is the aura top. The yarn I used is La Vietnamese Silk Mohair, and the colorway is Nadia. So what did I want to say about this? So this is one of those open gauge mohair knits that's pretty popular in this year and last year. I think two patterns that I can think of are pretty similar to this one are the Ghost Whisperer by Park Williams and the Cloud Bow in one of the Pom Pom publications that was very popular last year. Yeah, and the reason that I chose this pattern is because of the arm and shoulder design. So I'll put a picture of the designer's sample because you can't see my sleeve. So it is a satin sleeve design, and I thought it was, when I look at the designer's sample, it was really clean and structured, because with this open fabric, it can be a little bit floppy. So I really like that the structure the designer had put in this design. Yeah, so that's my reasoning behind choosing this. And the construction is worked from bottom up and in the round, and then from the underarm you separate the front and the back, and then you work flat. So pretty simple and straightforward construction. And then for the sleeve, you have to, she asks you to work it flat, and then you have to seam everything up. So seam the whole arm up like this, and then attach this sleeve cap to the armhole like this. So it would be a lot of seaming that I have to do for this one. Okay, in terms of difficulty level, so for these mohair yarns, stitch definitions can be a little bit hard for a beginner knitter, and also you have to keep even tension when you're sewing, obviously, to match the two parts, otherwise it creates a weird cinching. And that's one difficulty. Oh, and also to sew this arm on, you have to use 3 kinds of sewing methods. So horizontal to horizontal, vertical to vertical, and vertical to horizontal, just to sew the sleeves on. Another difficult part for this one is the casting off. So basically, she just asks you to cast off in the most basic way. So you knit 2 and pass 1 over the other. And that bind off method is really tight. And I bind it off with my needles that I worked body with, and it was too tight. I've already sewed it up because that's the only way I can try it on. And I have to undo my sewing and go back to this bind off. And I used needles that was 3 sizes up. So this is a 8.0 millimeter needles. And the body I worked with 6.5 millimeter needles. Apart from that, it is I haven't met any more difficulties yet, but we will see. Okay, for the sizing for this pattern comes in 8 sizes. So the smallest is 71 centimeter to 76 centimeter. And the largest is 142 centimeter to 147 centimeter. So a very good, decent size inclusive range. Now we can finally move on to the next section, which I'm going to call sock curation. The reason I want to start this sock curation section is because I want to separate my sock knitting with the rest of my knitting, just because I wasn't a sock knitter for the first 1.5 years of my knitting journey. So yeah, I'm going to separate my sock section with my normal section. Oh, the sun is shining into my eyes. Okay, so this bag holds my first ever pair of socks. So you're catching me in my first ever sock knitting experience. I actually am just in the middle of my first sock, so I only have 1 sock instead of a pair of socks. But this is it. This is the Tanemaki sock, also by the designer Yuka. And it features these very beautiful textured cuff design, and the rest of the sock is just vanilla. And the heel construction that she calls for is a heel flat and gusset. Yeah, one more look at the stitch pattern. So the pattern is called Tanemaki, and Tanemaki means seeds in Japanese. And the textured stitches uses some cables and seed stitch to kind of imitate the seeds. And I think it's really cute and romantic. So why I chose this pattern is because Yuka has some sock patterns with tabby toes, and my biggest intention for starting my sock knitting journey is because I want to knit ergonomic socks, and tabby toe are, I think, the most ergonomic, even more ergonomic than knitting the one side of your toes straight and one side like with a curve like that. And the yarn I'm using is just undyed 75% merino and 25% nylon base that I experiment dyeing a lot, and I buy this yarn base in bulk, and I don't remember where, but I have a lot of it. But it is just a very basic but very perfect sock yarn. Yeah. Yeah, that's it for the sock curation section, since this is the first ever sock that I am knitting. Okay, now we can finally move on to the acquisitions and future plans section. My first acquisition are very special yarn that I purchased from Melanie from the Big Little Yarn Co. She has her own knitting podcast, and she shows all of her beautiful hand-dyed yarns on her podcast, and I am always so tempted when she uploads. So I had to purchase from her, especially for this collection. This is the Ghibli collection that she did for the past year. But let's talk about these yarns. These are the two colorways inspired by the film Howl's Moving Castle. It is one of my favorite comfort films, and I had to get both colorways. These are both inspired by the scene where Sophie meets Howl, and Howl flies across the market with Sophie with his coat. And yeah, so the first colorway, this is the tonal. It's called Howl's coat, obviously. And I got it in the alpaca silk fingering base. So the composition of this is 70% baby alpaca and 30% mulberry silk. And it comes in 100 grams for 100 meters. So typical fingering weight. And it is so beautiful. The variegated colorway I got in the Serene silk lace base, and this colorway is called Merry-Go-Round Life. So it features the same red with the tonal, and some blues, some greens, some browns as well. Oh, I love it. And the base is very soft. It's your typical Suri alpaca that's so much softer than silk mohair, but still gives a similar kind of feel. And my plans for these yarns is to make a Birds of a Feather Show by Andrea Murray. I think the theme of flying and the Birds of a Feather Show being a very flowy and dreamy shawl, I think is very suitable, and I got a quantity for that pattern. Yeah, so I'm going to knit that up soon, so stay tuned if you want to see how it works out. Okay, my second acquisition. So these are the Lane Yarn Cashmere Premium. So they come in 25-gram balls, and I got three in this powdered pink colorway. The colorway is, I think, 0450. Yeah, I got 3 of this. And I got the same yarn in another colorway. This dusty blue, not dusty blue, sky blue colorway. And I got the same quantity, so 25 grams and 3 of them. This is cashmere, and it is everything that a cashmere is. It is light, it is softer than any yarn that I've ever touched. And yeah, it is the most luxurious yarn. So my plans for these are I'm going to make 2 tops from Petiteknit. So the one that I'm sure that I'll make is the wrap bra, and I'll put a picture here. And that one uses exactly, I think, 3 skeins of this cashmere premium in my size. Yeah, And so I got 2 colorways. One of them I'm going to make it into that wrap bra, and the other one I will have to see. I don't know yet. But for now, I'm just going to do one and enjoy having cashmere in my stash. Last acquisition. Nothing special, just my 2 test skeins that I did for the previous yarn that I showed for the very knit along. It is a lot more heavily speckled than the skein that I showed, and the speckles are also not as dispersed. So I'm not sure they're going to hold up well to a textured pattern. So I'm going to use these 2 to make a mini mock neck tank by Aimée. So that's another plan, and that's all of my acquisitions. I can't believe I managed to get through everything, but I hope you enjoyed this. If anybody is watching, I've definitely had a lot of fun filming it. Yeah, and that's it. I'll see you next time. Bye!